I'm so grateful for each and every one of you that took us for a ride with you when you're in the car, that put me in your headset. Like, I'm so amazed that you tune in and you find this information useful. And that's what I'm here for, to to help in that way, to give information, to provide solutions, to help you see yourself a little clearer, to help you through your journey in life and business. That's what it's all about. We all want things that make us better. And that's what this is. So I thank you so much. And I thank you for your feedback about that episode speaking about patterns. It's been a hot topic everywhere. Like, I'm inundated with patterns. And I wanted to talk about something that came out, which is related, right? Which is related to patterning. Um, and it's a very necessary topic because so many of us are praying for God to break cycles. We're talking about cycles, everybody. And so many of us are praying for cycles to be broken, and while we're accidentally feeding the patterns that keep those cycles alive. So we have to talk about patterns, cycles, how they work together, how they differ, and that's what we're going to tackle today. And I want to let you know that most of those things that we call the enemy, because I love to say, y'all, the devil, the enemy, right, aren't actually spiritual attacks. They're patterns. They're patterns, right? So even if it's something that we did not choose, it's something that we're living from anyway, because it is a part, patterns have become a part of us. So today we're unpacking the difference between a pattern and a cycle, why it matters for your emotional and spiritual and business life, and how God exposes one to deliver you from the other. So they're related but not the same. They're intertwined but not the same. So grab your tea, people, because this one might read your whole life. Read your whole life. So let's simplify. Let's simplify it. A pattern. What is a pattern? I'm going to define a pattern for you. A pattern is the behavior, the automatic response, the way your nervous system reacts before your mind even catches up. So if you think about how you respond to someone or when something happens, and the automatic response you have in the situation when it keeps repeating, that is a pattern, right? And the cycle is the environment those patterns keep recreating. The repeated results, the familiar frustration. So when the pattern happens, your results based on that pattern, right? The I know this feeling too well moment, that is a cycle. And you don't actually choose cycles. You live inside the cycle your patterns produce. So let's give some examples, right? So a pattern could be avoiding hard conversations. I know a lot of us do not like having hard conversations. I do not, right? But it is what it is. We're human. We live. We have to. So the pattern is avoiding the hard conversations, and the cycle is relationships that never feel safe or clear. Let's do another one. The pattern is overworking when stressed, and the cycle is burnout, resentment, money feeling like a moving target. Let's try another one. And I want you to tell me and identify if you see yourself here. Really think about it. The pattern is pleasing everybody. The cycle is feeling unseen, unheard, under-supported. I made a post on Instagram and I was just trying to get insight into, I'm going to it right now, into some of the patterns that are happening. And the patterns that's been running our life. And I put overthinking, saying yes when I want to say no, shutting down emotionally, feeling guilty for choosing myself. And the number one pattern that was identified was saying yes when I want to say no. And that falls into pleasing everybody. That falls into people pleasing. And when you do that, you You basically live for other people. You negate yourself and your emotions. And the only time you really feel seen is when you're doing something for someone. So that was really interesting to me, right? And I want you to tell me if you can relate to any of these. So patterns happen inside you and cycles happen around you. So it's just that thing that you keep repeating, that cycle of, sadness, of hurt, of disappointment. And the pattern is like your first reaction, right? Is a behavior, right? You curse somebody out, right? So why this matters is that when we say, and we're going to get spiritual right now, when we say God break this cycle, but God is like, daughter, I want to renew your mind first. Because we know the Bible, and if you don't, I'm gonna dive into it. Romans 12 says transformation begins in your mind. So God breaks cycles, yes, but he calls you to interrupt patterns, you to interrupt the pattern. Because when the pattern is healed, the cycle loses its power. Once you lose how you react to something, you break the cycle, right? Because you can identify, okay, this is my pattern of doing this. And what happens around me when this happens, you've identified the cycle. X, Y, and Z happens. So you know how to react when this situation comes up. And that's what breaks the power. So sometimes God isn't withholding breakthrough, he's revealing the root of it. So that's why you need to sit down and ask yourselves those deep questions. Right? Let's go back a little. Have you ever noticed that before elevation, and something else I've been posting about too, that God often exposes what's been operating underneath, like all those things that cause the reaction, the pattern, the cycling. All of that has to be rooted. And I'm currently experiencing an uprooting, like deep, and it's painful. But it's not actually punishment. It's mercy and it's preparation for your future. So we actually cannot steward what you're praying for with the patterns you pick up in survival. So survival pattern and thriving pattern are two different patterns. And I think I talked about that last week as well. So let's talk about what it looks like in everyday life, in business. So in business, you think you're stuck because of strategy, right? Because you don't have the strategy, but it's the pattern of doubting your own decisions that keep you from implementing. So you've made a decision, but you doubt the decision you've made because you don't trust yourself. So you have this cycle, this pattern of not trusting yourself, which creates this cycle of you not implementing anything. And I want you guys to know that that is normal to feel like I'm not sure, but you still execute anyway. But in that's in business. Let's talk about relationships. So in relationships, you think people keep disappointing you, but it's the pattern of accepting crumbs that keeps you cycling back to the same emotional climate, right? You just accept whatever, and we know how that can turn out. You are flustered, you are disappointed, which is never a good thing. Now, in your spiritual life, you think, oh my goodness, God is silent. He's not talking to me. I'm missing him. But it's really the pattern of reacting from fear instead of faith that keeps you from hearing him clearly. I can tell y'all, I'm here in this box right here. And it's a pattern and it just keeps repeating. And we need to break ourselves out of that. So here are some questions I want you to think about. As you listen, you're going to be reflecting and perhaps writing stuff down if you're not driving. But I really want us to get this good because it's so helpful when you see where you are at, so you can break those cycles and break those patterns going forward. Because those are the things that's hindering your life and business and your growth, right? So reflective questions. Ask yourself this: what pattern in me is feeding the cycle around me? That's one question. Question number two: